here we are, another episode, but different people this time. You've got some guest co-hosts, and of course, if you're going to replace JD, you got to go for the budget version of him. So my name is Ben. Used to work alongside JD at Blockchain Labs, and I'm happy to be here as the co-host this time. And with me, I have Christine. Christine, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Christine. I'm a co-founder of Tashi. You've seen me before too. Also not as cool as Kiara. Sorry about your second-rate hosting experience today, but I hope you enjoy it.
Well, let's get kicked off. Here we are. We have a very funny episode today. Monday morning, a lot of regulatory investigations out there. We are starting off with the bridge exploit that has recently happened. So there, Christine, I'm not sure if you're aware of this. Do you want me to give you a little bit of information on this one as we get kicked off?
Yeah.
So as we all know, there's a lot of phishing scams that happen in the crypto space, and we have another one today. And this one is all based on airdrops. Airdrops can be extremely exciting. You effectively get dropped stuff for free into your wallet. But I think there's a lot of scams in this space, and we've got another one on our hands here. The multi-chain protocol bridge has been exploited, and there's been fake airdrops. That's pretty much come up with that. People have been sent links, told that if they click here and register a wallet, they're going to get something for free that could be worth something. In this situation, that wasn't true. And a number of people, I think it was, there was a fake airdrop put out on Twitter, and over 5,000 people retweeted it. It's been shut down by a number of the stable coins have tried to blacklist wallets that were had funds drawn to them. But the long and short of it is over $313 million were stolen using this airdrop technique. So that's a pretty tough hit for the space. And I think anytime we see a story like this, it's going to make people worried to want to step into crypto in the DeFi space. Christine, have you ever been hit with an airdrop scam or know anyone that has?
Not an airdrop scam. I've had my fair share of other kinds of like rug pulls and all that business.
Oh, yeah.
I think you just have to be smart, like as far as if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. I mean, it's unfortunate because there are so many legitimate opportunities in the sense of airdrops, but I think that, people just don't do their research as far as that goes. They just see something random and they're like, yep, I want to be a part of that and that and that. And it's interesting because it's great to want to be a part of everything that's going on, but you really, really have to pay attention. I mean, this is, it's like giving everybody access to your banking information. Even though it's public facing, a lot of these wallet addresses, people are smart. And the same way that they can rip off your credit card from a machine where you go and tap it, they can also do it here. So I think just really pay attention to the projects, really pay attention to who's behind them. And I'm not saying all airdrops are bad, but figure out what you're signing up for before you do it.
And how would you know if you get sent an airdrop link? What would you look for to be like, this is legitimate? Is it who it's coming from, or is there ways you sort of check the address?
So to be completely honest with you, I am not generally affiliated with any airdrop links of any sort. I am the kind of person that if I have a trusted person in my life who tells me about a new project, I'm more likely to go into it. I mean, until you know people that you trust, that's a difficult way to do it. But as a general rule, I mean, I don't think that banking on airdrops with things that you're unfamiliar with is a good idea at all. Go in, check out the communities, check out their Discord, check out their Telegram, like figure out who's behind this because it happens all the time.
I agree. That's a big thing I've noticed as well is people are very smart. These scammers are very smart, right? So they will recreate a Telegram or they'll recreate a Signal profile that looks exactly like the real one. And you only really know that it's real if you check, well, is it linked to the right places? And are they retweeting it? Are the official sites retweeting it? Are the official Twitter pages retweeting these things? And if that's not there, there's a strong chance it's not a real airdrop. But again, it comes down to that if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And no one really gets anything for free these days, right? So if someone's promising you $10,000 worth of tokens because it's a hot new project, but there's no link to you at all, It's probably not
That's
true.
the other thing. Like, is it really worth it? Because a lot of these other airdrops are such a small amount of something. Like, is it worth it to you to give up all your information for such a small amount of something? Or is it worth it to you? Maybe it piques your interest and you go and learn about a new project. That's great. But I don't know.
No, no. That's a tough one to start us off with. And we go into another negative news story, actually. Going back to back. There's a $120 million hack on the Multichain Bridge. And on top of that, the CEO is MIA. So let me get you a little bit more details on this. The Multichain, which is a struggling bridge, it says here in this news article, has suffered a $120 million hack and is unable to resume operations due to its CEO's disappearance. Stolen funds include stablecoins and tokens impacting various blockchains. Multichain has a total of $1.26 billion worth of cryptocurrencies locked in its system. The incident follows a previous hack back in 2021 and continues to highlight vulnerabilities in its protocols. Missing CEO. That's not the first time a key player in the space has gone missing. There seems to be a running trend here of slightly shady things in the industry in terms of the big players vanishing. It's a tough one. This is a worrying news story. I think it's very funny. Christine, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it is really funny, but I think that unfortunately, I think that as a global market, a lot of things happen in TradFi also all the time, and money disappears and people don't bother finding it or talking about it. They seem to get away with it better because it's not under the same kind of scrutiny. And I think that there are terrible people and there are unfortunate circumstances. But again, it comes down to like who, it says in these articles that they weren't doing so well. It was a struggling bridge. There are bridges out there that are great, that put people first, that are progressive, that back what they do. I don't know why you would continue to use something that is having a hard go. It's such a crucial part of what's going on. So I don't know. I think it is FUDdy, but I don't want to take it as like FUDdy on the whole thing. I think there's definitely FUDdy people out there, but that to me, because I know good people, because I see people building and trying to make this space better for everybody, I don't think it's representative of the whole space. And it's unfortunate that these things do happen. But like I said, it happens in TradFi all the time too. Like there's bad players out there.
And that's what I think people forget that. They kind of look at crypto and go, oh, there's all of these stories. And because it's that hot topic at the moment, every negative news thing is shouted from the rooftops.
Yeah.
Whereas you go to TradFi, I mean, my career has been in TradFi for the last decade. All sorts of challenging things happen. I mean, if you look back a few months, there was a number of banks just going fully under in the US. And yeah, that was quite a big concern and hit a lot of the news stories. But there are always negative news stories in TradFi as well. So I agree with you. I don't necessarily think that crypto is any more or less negative than traditional finance. It's just there's more focus on the smaller stories in it at the moment. But in terms of bridges, I think that's a really interesting space. I'm not going to go too deep into this, but for those who don't know, there are wealth or value and information smart contracts are held on different chains, and to get that shared between different chains, Ethereum being one, for example, Bitcoin is another chain. To move information or value between the two, you require a bridge because they're effectively secure, separate streams of information. So when we're talking about the multi-bridge here, multi-chain bridge, we're talking about a company here that specifically looks to move information between these major bridges. I do think that's a very interesting space. I'm waiting to see what the gold standard for that becomes because there's so many competitors. Do you see a front runner in this space at the moment, Christine? Bridging?
I mean, to be honest with you, we are just launching a new protocol. We're working with a specific bridge for quite a few reasons. We're working with Wormhole. They're amazing. But I don't know if there's going to be like, I think that we're going to end up with a couple that are super prominent in the space. Those will be the ones that are majorly used. It's kind of like everything else. You'll have when it comes to bridging, it's such an important thing. So the people that are willing to actually have the proper security and infrastructure. If you talk to the people from Wormhole, I don't want to shill one specific project. It's not even my project. And, this is not any sort of financial advice where you only should use Wormhole, because I don't know. I'm not in control of that. But from what I see out of them and how they represent themselves, when you talk about them, it's not like how fast can we spread, how far can we reach. It's security, 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 security. And that to me is what's important when it comes to being a bridge. So those are the kind of things you would look out for when you're, dealing with projects who are using bridged assets and whatever. I would strongly suggest looking into who's doing those bridges for you, and like who's doing the bridging and how they represent themselves, how forward facing are they, and you'll have your best chance.
Sure, I agree. I do see there's a couple of players. There's a number of bridge companies out there, but yeah, Wormhole are great, very well established. So interested to see. I think it'll come down to 2, maybe 3 major providers that have it all tied up. Then all the systems battle tested, and then hopefully, ideally, we see it become much, much, much smoother, so that when you're bridging, maybe you don't even realize when you're bridging between different dApps information, you don't have to do a laborious step of sort of logging in and out and verifying, and we can get to a point where information is shared smoothly between different chains. So it doesn't matter whether you're using a DeFi app on Ethereum that's interacting with another one, say on a completely different network. Exciting times. Okay, well, that's 2 negative ones to start us off, but now we have a more positive story. Whales have accumulated over 1.1 billion XRP tokens, Ripple tokens, which is worth $570 million since February of this year. And that is an enormous amount of investment into a payment company. I mean, they're more than just payments. I'm sure everyone at Ripple is screaming right now saying we're more than that, but XRP in general, for the exchange of value globally and smoothly. I'm very excited for this. I do think Ripple is one of the front runners in this space of making DeFi more accessible to individuals and corporate enterprises. So it's not surprising that we've seen such a large increase in holders and whales of this. I do think that's just going to continue now as the next market starts to pick back up again. I mean, everything's been suppressed. The value of XP has been pushed down by a lot of different market factors as well. So it makes sense. It makes sense to me why whales are going in and buying up billions of tokens. What do you think, Christine?
Yeah, I think it's really a great story to talk about. And it's not saying like, a bunch of random people are buying in. When you have a significant amount of people buy something, that's great. That'll happen, in our next bull market. But they're saying specific whales are accumulating huge amounts, which is pretty bullish in my opinion. That means it's got some big backing by some big people, and we all know it's going places. It's just a matter of time, but it's a nice thing to be able to talk about on a FUD Monday.
It's a little break there. A little break from the first 2 negative ones. Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah, I think Ripple's one of these companies that's going to really be the backbone, or one of the backbones of bridging between TradFi and DeFi. You've got some big players out there. You've got Circle, I always mention them. And then Chainlink doing a lot of the infrastructure work. There are set companies in this space right now that will be doing a lot of the heavy lifting to bring over some of these more traditional companies to exchange value, I don't want to say money, I want to say exchange value internationally in real time or close to real time using blockchain technology. And for someone that's had 10 years of experience in traditional payments using, cash, checks, wires, SWIFT payments, I really believe that the blockchain payment network or ability to do blockchain payments cryptographics, or I should say, is going to fundamentally change the future in how we exchange value around the world. As it stands today, if I want to get family members in other places around the world funds quickly, it still might take between 24 and 48 hours for funds to get from me in my bank account to theirs. If I wanted to use crypto payment rails or blockchain technology, it could be a lot quicker, but the people I would normally send it to, so the parents or other family members that aren't in the space, it still would be difficult for me because I'd have to go and get them to set up a wallet and so on. I think Ripple is one of these companies that is doing the work to make it easier to bring in not just people, but also enterprises as well, and helping them understand, well, what is crypto payments and why is it safe to use, given the last two stories we just put out there, there's a lot of potential risk, but with the right infrastructure, it makes it super easy for big companies to get very comfortable moving large amounts of money. So I think it's a matter of time now. I'll be very interested to see where we are in 18 months, 24 months time, and whether any major corporates actually are using real-time crypto payments day to day to move funds across their different treasury operations around the world. I don't think we're that far away from that now. So very exciting times. But obviously, I think you mentioned earlier, taking the right risk precautions is very important. So very interesting. Well, we went one positive story, Christine. We're now going to go back to a funny one. So the SEC is investigating Barn Bridge DAO. I think you've got a little bit of knowledge on Barn Bridge, Christine. You're familiar with these guys.
Yeah.
We got a few investigations coming out today, SEC being one of them. SEC is investigating Barn Bridge DAO and associated individuals and has instructed them to pause all work and close their liquidity pools. So that's quite a strong move from the SEC here. It's one of the first times I've seen this on a DAO. The reason for the investigation hasn't been fully disclosed at this time, so only limited information can be shared with us right now. The DAO members did vote to retain their law firm as their legal counsel during this time. At the moment, all co-founders are denying any ulterior motives. The token price has dropped slightly at the news. But I think the most interesting part for me of this story is that it's the SEC is reaching out to a DAO asking them to stop rather than saying that they're under investigation. It's quite a strong move to say, like, you're under our jurisdiction now. We want you to cease. What are your thoughts on this, Christine?
Well, I was just I didn't have too much information on this, but I was just looking it up, and it says Barn Bridge is a cross-chain platform risk management protocol that aims to reduce the risk associated with DeFi, such as inflation risk and interest rate volatility. So their smart yield pools the yield from lending protocols and splits it into tranches. It sounds like asset management, which is why would the SEC not come and attack this? They probably don't have, like, I'm sure they're not dealing in securities. So it would make sense that they would come in and try and put a thumb down on this in the current regulatory space here. Yeah. So I don't think that this should be too much of a surprise. I think that they are jumping from thing to thing. This got picked out specifically, probably because it's very clear that they're making decisions for people's not securities to what to do with them. And there's no, I would assume, licenses involved in these DAOs. And like, I just think it seems so silly to say, like, we don't have a good standing right now. We don't know. We kind of are figuring out along the line what we're not allowed to be doing, but they haven't given us rules as to what we are allowed to be doing or how to participate. I think it's crazy. All this big money is going into things like Ripple, like you were just talking about, which means that people do believe in what's happening. The money doesn't matter. What it means is that they know something's going on behind the scenes, that it's moving. We have these players like MasterCard. Things are happening, but for the people that are already using it, we're kind of like getting I don't want to say a bad thing, but we're the ones who are losing out right now, even though we're like the first movers. You just got to be really careful what space you're in, because if the people running your protocol aren't putting you first, if your DAO is set up as though to include people that know that aren't supposed to be participating in this right now, there is a chance that you might get shut down. I think it's up to the responsibility of these DAOs to have these votes, and of these, founders to really be like, okay, do I want to last? Then maybe I have to shut you down for now, because this is what happens. Because before, 4 years ago, we didn't have these rules, so it was fine. But now we know it's not fine. So you need to be doing the responsible thing for longevity. That's not saying not being inclusive for the rest of life. It's saying do what you're allowed to do if you want to be seen as, respectable. If you don't want to come and get shut down, that's it.
It's true. It doesn't seem like any crypto company really is safe from a bit of a SEC shaking of the tree. I think it was Coinbase recently also ended up going into an investigation, or at least had some, I don't know enough details on that to really give more, but I know that effectively the SEC is sort of now really geared up to start getting into the weeds here with some of these companies and making sure that, as you said, everything is what it says it is.
Well,
We'll
it's
see.
it's hard because there was no rules, and now they just came and they're like, okay, everybody shut down. So
Everyone stop.
yeah, but if we had a stop before that, then there would have been no innovation. So it's kind of like, all right, now whatever, we're playing a game of stop and go for now.
It's a necessary,
Yeah.
I think, step on the ladder. It's an uncomfortable one. No one wants to get shut down and investigated, but I think it's a necessary step as we grow, for sure. Yeah. From one investigation into another, different government body. Like I said, very funny episode today. We are now going to be talking about the FBI investigating founder of Kraken, Jesse Powell. So for those that don't know, Jesse Powell founded Kraken. He also founded a non-profit. I'm going to get the name right. I don't want to let me just look it quickly up here. Otherwise, I'm going to pronounce it wrong, I'm sure. It is the Verge Center for the Arts, a non-profit he set up a while ago. Jesse stepped down from Kraken in 2022 and was also removed from the board of the non-profit last year. The FBI recently was contacted as there was some concerns that Jesse was had cyber hacked and was cyber stalking the non-profit. So they've actually gone to his home, the founder, Jesse, and have seized a number of his digital devices as well, which they're looking into. So no further comment right now from his legal team, but looking into whether or not he's actually hacked his own non-profit that he recently stepped down from. I'm not sure how I feel about this one. If you set it up, shouldn't you be able to see it? I mean, if he stepped down and isn't allowed to be part of it anymore, obviously that's not right. Very, very strange news story, this one. I'm not really sure what the benefit of hacking your own non-profit is. But what do you think, Christine?
I think it's useless. I think it's that is put out there to be FUD for FUD's sake. Like, if we don't, we're going to speculate on this, but why? Like, we have no real information yet. And let them investigate whatever it is and keep it out of the news until it matters, because maybe that's the wrong attitude to take. But honestly, like, there's some questions that need answering. And until we have answers, it doesn't really make sense. Like, why would you hack into your own, whatever? Doesn't matter. It's not on the top of my radar. It's not, I don't know.
Yeah, until we get more information, it'd be interesting to see. But the fact that it's being pumped into the news, I think because it's related to Kraken, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of this sort of potentially negative story. Kraken. For those who don't know, Kraken was the second largest US crypto exchange. So anything around exchanges right now is hot topics, given the different issues we've had in the last 6 to 8 months of exchanges going under, and we don't even need to start on FTX. So I think it's a little bit of, it's to do with Kraken. Let's get this up into the news.
Yeah.
There's no information here around him doing anything to steal funds or to defraud anyone. It more appears to be a story that he just was cyber stalking is what's this title here. So I don't even know what that means when it's a non-profit you set up. But
you're stalking your own non-profit. So he's looking at it?
Yeah, exactly. He's looking at the own non-profit that he set up. Not sure. Maybe there's more to it. Maybe
I don't really know what to say about it.
It's great to hear. All right. Well, we're gonna step into one negative and we're gonna finish on a positive involving Harry Styles. So before that, I thought you get excited there. Before that, we're talking about Sega Corp. Let me bring up the title of this one. Sega, the owners of Sonic the Hedgehog. You may be thinking, yes, that's Sega. Sega have ceased all involvement in working in creating digital gaming using their brands at this time. So they have stepped back from the metaverse Web3 gaming space. So there won't be a blockchain-backed Sonic the Hedgehog game anytime soon. They are citing the cooling down of that part of the blockchain space as the reason why they're putting investment. I think we can all agree that the excitement for metaverse Web3 gaming has cooled a little bit. The question is it gone, do we think? Or is this just part of the cycle and we're going to see Web3 gaming come soaring back? What do you think?
Yeah, I think Web3 gaming is going to be a thing. It makes it easier for everybody. I think that, okay, I have two kind of sideways opinions on this. I think that it might be, so if they decide I don't think they're gonna decide long term to not be involved. They might, I don't know, but they said that they're not interested. They're just pulling back for now.
That's right. Yeah.
By doing that, they might create a sense of like exclusivity towards themselves because the only way to interact with them would be, you know, it's kind of like having old game stations now, like ones that you actually have to have, you know, like it's cool to have the old version of something. It might be interesting if you can only access them from there. But I think that no, I don't see it cooling down. Gaming, our need for competition as humans is embedded into us. Our need for community, we get to do both of those things and compete on a global level. So anything that has access to that, and Web3 is great access to that, it'll just continue to roll. Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to see a Sonic the Hedgehog open exploration virtual reality type game that's stored through blockchain Web3 space. I think that'd be amazing.
Yep.
I can't see that not existing eventually, surely. You know, you put a headset on, you are Sonic, and you're running around.
We're talking about them because they've decided to go against this, right?
Ooh, I see. So maybe you think it's a PR stunt?
Maybe.
Like,
why else would we be talking about Sonic right now?
That's true. I didn't have it on my diary to talk about Sonic today until this news story came up, and here we are. Maybe I just really like Sonic anyway because he's got such a thick head of hair. I just can't. It's the jealousy from my side.
I have a 4-year-old. I watch a lot of Sonic.
There you go. They had the film recently. Didn't they release a live action?
I've seen Sonic 700 times. I'm pretty sure.
Is it good?
Well, I've seen it like 700 times.
Okay. Not with your kid, just on your own. That's just a personal relax. Bang! I'll put Sonic on after a long week.
Yeah, he's my mentor, what I strive to be. He's a go-getter though, so I'm, why not?
High energy guy out here. Yeah. Harry Styles. Oh, here we go. Unusual story for the pod, but we're in. Harry Styles goes blockchain. What does that mean? Well, singer Harry Styles has partnered for his tour at the moment with a company called Events with a Z on the end. You can see it on the ticker below, to provide blockchain-based rewards for those who attend his concerts in Ireland. So we don't have the full details here, but I believe it's NFT based. It's effectively they create a blockchain wallet or use an existing one, and then their ticket for the concert is dropped into that. And then as they attend, then different rewards happen throughout the concert. They receive different items. I think that in itself is step one. There's a very exciting space around using your crypto wallet to store your attendance, your tickets to different events. It makes it very easy then for musicians to find out who their super fans are, because you can't fake that, right? You either got the ticket and went, or you didn't. And if you combine that with maybe some biometric scanning at the venue to see which parts of the concert you went to, or where you interacted, or did you buy merch, you add it all up, and then it's on a publicly available blockchain or even a private blockchain that the artist can see. Very quickly, you can pull out that group of fans that does absolutely everything, is the first person to buy tickets, always goes to your concerts, always buys the merch, is in the front row where they buy the tickets. You can even figure out exactly where they sat, how early they arrived, like all these sorts of things. There's so much you could do. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what artists do with this, whether it be musicians or interactive experiences, dancers, anything. It brings a whole new world of connection between artists and their fans, and being able to drop an exclusive NFT or personalized video into someone's wallet as a thank you. I mean, that's just the first stage I can think of. I'm sure if you fast forward 10 years, it's going to be a whole new level of connectivity between artists and fans. And when we'll go on to more in a second, but Christine, what are your thoughts on this?
So I think it's really interesting, and I like hearing your perspective on it, because I'm not artsy, and I'm not like, oh, connect your super fans with your artists, and like that's not who I am. But what I think is really cool is that if they do start doing ticket sales through things like NFTs, that's a pretty solid way to prove that you have a ticket. And imagine if places like Ticketmaster used blockchain technology for ticketing instead of email and whatever, that makes total sense. And I think we were talking the other day about like onboarding like the next million users. I think it's companies like that we don't think about when we're talking about like, oh, global reach and blah, 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 blah. Like places like Ticketmaster, how many people do they deal with on a yearly basis? Like, how many transactions do they do? That would be huge, right? Like, if we could onboard people that way and just get them not for like financial reasons, but for day-to-day life reasons where it makes more sense. There is more security. You're not buying some, shit ticket off some loser website. It's a real ticket. You've got it from there. It was transferred directly to you. And if it needs to be sold, it can be done. There would be like I think this is really cool. I think that this kind of idea, this technology, this use of technology makes the world a safer place. And I think that we overlook things like the possibilities of what we can do with blockchain. We always just see the negative and see transfer of money, but it's not just transfer of money for money's sake. There are things like this, like ticketing systems that it would be great.
I agree. I think two big things stand out for me in this space, and that one, ticket scalpers is going to really help with that, right? Yeah. So for those artists that want to make sure that all of their ticket sales go directly to fans, this would solve that. They can see whether, and if it's all done through NFTs into wallets, and I mean digital records of ticket, not NFT like it's a cartoon, but it's specifically a unfakeable way of proving ownership, which is really what the NFT technology is. You can cut out scammers or scalpers very quickly. But there's one use case that excites me quite a lot, and it's the idea that established artists can help up and coming artists launch records. So for example, I'm a big EDM fan. Say you were to pick a major artist like Dom Dollar, right? And he had someone that was warming up for him at a lot of his concerts. You bought a ticket, and he has a backlist of all of his favorite, fans, top 100,000 fans. You could quite easily message them or send out an official notification to say, look, I have this up and coming opening act that wants to launch a new album. But rather than go to a big album company and give up complete control and ownership to them, can we crowdsource this using DeFi technology so that they can launch their first album? And it's 5 tracks. And here's 10 seconds of the first track. And you could have it all cryptographically locked down to secure wallets that are SEC checked by then probably, so that this person can launch their career without having to sign away their life to big music producer album companies. That's not the right phrase, but you know what I mean. It's interesting. I think the music industry for artists has taken a dip in terms of royalties. The internet came along, and it was super easy to get hold of pirated music. So there's a huge kick to the financial benefits of being a famous artist. And then this, I think, is taking the next step the other way. So Web 2 and Web 1 made it harder to be a music artist. I think Web 3 is going to make it a lot easier again and put them back in control.
I think so too. That's a not funny story. We like this story.
We like that. Well, thankfully, we're actually going to end there. It's a non-funny story to end on. But before I go, I want to remind everyone that Go FUD Yourself is on Monday to Friday at 2:30 EST Eastern Time. Monday to Friday every week. Unfortunately, it won't be my good self and Christine on the next one. You'll be back to your regular co-hosts. But it has been an absolute pleasure. Christine, thank you for joining me today on this temporarily co-hosted episode. On that note, it goes to say that stay informed, stay skeptical. But of course, as always, go FUD yourself.
Go FUD yourself.